I'll show you a little blow up. It's not quite as clear, but here's just a line drawing so you can see how the dream stela looks, and clearly they are there. And you know that Joe Shore, our life member, in the mid-90s took the funding with Florida State University, went over there and did ground-penetrating radar, and he found 30 feet down a 40-foot by 20-foot anomaly, which means an opening in the stone, the bedrock. And so they would like to explore this. And Zahi's aware of this, and there's lots of thought about how to do it safely. You may not know it, but National Geographic's been asked by him to do that before. And what they did was they went a long ways away from the Sphinx over here, and they sent a small little drill all the way through the limestone and then dropped the camera in and looked around. That's how they found the Pharaoh's boats for Zahi, and it's on display on the Giza Plateau. So they could do the same thing here and not damage the Sphinx. So there's some thought about that, and I hope they do that. Now we're going to jump down to the mysteries in the Valley of the Kings, Queens, and Artisans. This is Sennedjem's tomb. He was one of the artisans, and he would work all day in the Valley of the Kings doing Pharaoh's tomb, and then at night he'd have a little dinner and go in the garage, and he built his own tomb. The thing is, his tomb is considered one of the most beautiful of all the tombs in Giza, and it has many mystical teachings on the wall, just really fantastic. One of them I want to show you is that he has shown you where the secret gate to heaven and the way to heaven is. And it is between your two eyes. So it kind of goes with Jesus' idea that the kingdom of heaven is within you, which is hard for us physical people to believe because we know there's just blood and guts in here. But apparently there's a consciousness level. So here's what Sennedjem drew. A white circle around your third eye. Then the circle of the feminine, which also symbolizes the eternal, and the shaft of the masculine, which also symbolizes the temporal world, tied together. When you bring the two yin and yang together and you go to this special place, the white light brings the water of life. See these wavy lines? That's water. It fills your cup. When the cup overflows, it waters the lotuses. When the lotus bloom, they give off the scent to the Anubis, the guide to heaven. So then he picks up the trail of the way home. And what the Egyptians are trying to tell you is that Anubis symbolizes your sixth sense of the way home. And that secret is the scent of the lotus opening. And Jesus at the Last Supper turns to Philip and says, you know where I'm going and you know the way. Of course, Philip, like us, goes, what? I have no idea where you're going. Oh, yeah, you do. No one has ascended to heaven who didn't descend. So here's Sennedjem's secret message to us, and it's a very impressive tomb. In fact, it's been completely rebuilt at the Chicago Egyptian Museum in exact scale. And Ahmed and I did a tour there. At the Abydos Temple, there is a beam, and it has modern structures up here on this beam. And this is what puzzles everybody. And here they are. A helicopter, an underwater submarine, a flying ship, and another looks like an airplane. And they're saying, there's no way they could have had these ideas unless they were flying. This is, I wanted to show you how they found some of these hidden chambers. This is the surface of the ground, and this is ground-penetrating radar. And you see there's the secret chamber underneath. And once they saw this, they could then dig down and they would open the chamber. And that's how they find these things. I put that in the wrong place. Okay, here's the birds. These birds have been found, and some of them are not shaped like birds. Their wings are not positioned like birds. They're positioned like airplanes. And so they were flight. And then with that one bird, there was a story of a Chinese man who was the king of building kites and flying devices. That's what it says. And he came to work in Egypt, but he started missing his wife. So one night he built one of these and flew home to her and then came back the next day to work. That's written in the tomb that you found, you see. So Now, these were found in Central and South America, and these are ancient, and they look just like little airplanes. There's little seats. Here's a diagram of them and all. And these are called the palm leaf manuscripts found in India, and they talk all about flying machines. And these things date way back to 1500 BC, and they're describing the flying machines. And so ancient flight is recorded. Here's a Vimana from India that they would go out on a Sunday flight with. And you see the exhaust coming out here. The description of this says that down here they're heating mercury, and that's how they lifted off the ground and flew around. And they said they flew in a whisper sound. They were very quiet and pleasant. These were found in the ancient Ramayana poem, which is kind of like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. It's a very epic story. And the devices are described in incredible detail. And this is like 1000 BC. And then it's saying that this was like 5000 BC device that a guy in 1000 BC redescribed. This is Sanskrit. And they actually traveled out into space. This is all written in the book, so it's a book that is definitely dated in the BC period. So the archaeologists say it was imaginative thinking. Well, it was incredibly imaginative. And they still swear they couldn't have flown, but yet we have evidence that they did. In the Ramayana, it actually describes the planets and what their atmospheres are like. So, question, how'd they know that if they didn't fly? So this kind of wraps it up, showing you that there are still several mysteries that a lot of people are working on, but we don't have full resolution to yet.